everyone, today we're going to get you on your way to mastering Wraith in Apex Legends. We have a ton of tips, tricks, and gameplay examples for ways for you to outduel your opponents in today's meta, but I do want to give a big thanks on my previous 2 Wraith guides, which have accumulated over 500,000 views, so thank you. Are you going to be wasting your time playing Wraith, and should you be playing someone else? If that's what you're asking yourself, it depends on what you're looking for. While she may not be directly considered a movement legend, Wraith's physical size in the game will let her scout around and figure out place for the squad, which means that those that play her should consider themselves more of the leader on the team who needs to be ready to shot call for that team. It's going to be Wraith's ability to reset engagements and extend her life through her abilities that gives her a 9 lives type of feel, as she can simply just keep going back for more and keep getting away. Her passive ability by far is the weakest part of her set. Voices from the Void is an always on passive ability that calls out when enemies are looking down sights at her. This can give her a brief second of awareness to take cover and prevent her from taking some big damage, most notably from snipers or poking type weapons. Wraith will also give audible cues if an enemy trap is nearby when approaching an area, or if enemy players are nearby who are alive, or if they have recently died. And if you do get this audible notification, you will be able to share this intel to your team through a ping. Wraith's tactical and ultimate ability and the combination thereof makes for one of the strongest playstyles and gameplay examples that Apex can offer. Into the Void is her tactical ability, which more or less gives Wraith 4 seconds of invulnerability and a 30% speed increase to her movement, which does allow Wraith to reposition herself to escape out of a bad situation or go directly through an area of congestion to make a play. This ability does take a fairly long eternity, 1.25 seconds to activate, so pre-planning and almost foreseeing into the future is going to be necessary if you do want to get this ability off and not end up dead during the activation. You're also slowed, making it even more troublesome if an enemy does have a line of sight on you or if you are caught in the complete open. Option 1 when activating the tactical should be to stay behind cover during the activation to avoid damage, but if you are caught off guard and in the open, doing a jump and any sort of strafe to the left and right will be your best bet. So just don't stand there like a bot. Otherwise, you can implement sliding off objects, sliding down hills, and even doing a wall jump into a tactical phase, as these are going to be great ways to avoid damage and keep up your overall momentum, making you harder to hit as you do go into the phase. Wraith can see enemies while she is in the phase, which is going to be helpful to not run into an enemy as you exit, but a massive warning I do want to give is that if an enemy is somewhat close to you and there is not a lot of spots for Wraith to phase to, enemies can simply just chase a Wraith down while she is phasing, which is something that you should be aware of. Always try to monitor your surroundings and pre-plan certain escape routes. Likewise with this, if your team is fighting and you phase out, you're going to be leaving them in a 2-on-3 for a short amount of time, so be sure not to phase away from your team unless you absolutely have to. Even though you can't shoot your weapons during Wraith's tactical, you are still able to connect to zip lines, which does mean you can use zips and her phase as a way to combo and move into areas or escape in more creative ways with some safety. Even though you can interact with zip lines, you can't open any doors, so take care when you are phasing around buildings and don't get trapped inside or outside of a building and then you just get shot in the back when you do come out of phase. When you do come out of that phase though, there is a brief speed boost since you were moving faster. Doors are actually going to be the bread and butter way for you to continue to extend your reset capabilities. Going from a phase into a slide all while popping a battery and sitting on that door that you just closed is a great way to reset with a little bit more effectiveness. A little trick that not many know is that since you actually move faster in Wraith's tactical, you can climb up just a little bit higher, letting you climb to certain spots that you couldn't normally. Likewise with the climbing, if you start the activation of the tactical and you realize you didn't want to use it, you can start to climb a wall and it is going to cancel that activation of the tactical. Do note though that you do need to be doing a higher climb. You can't just mantle an object. This is nice if you do mess up, but you can actually also bait enemy players as to think that you are phasing, because sometimes they will hear the tactical start, they'll push in, and actually you are right there ready to shoot them. Getting stuck by an arc star is a nightmare for anyone in Apex, but if you are Wraith, you really never have to worry about this, as you can simply just activate the tactical and you aren't going to take any damage from the explosion. Traditionally that tactical is meant for escaping, but if you are playing aggressively and you can't quite get to that camping team, it's a very viable strategy to pop the tactical and then push past enemies into their area. This is great to walk right through gas traps without them activating, or something like Watson's fences, and then attack from the side or behind them with a coordinated multi-phased attack with a squad. Making plays like this, however, does not end at that tactical ability, and you can also make plays by using Wraith's ultimate portal. One thing that everyone should know though is that a well-coordinated Wraith portal is absolutely more viable if you are communicating and playing with a pre-made team. How do you find dedicated and like-minded squad mates though? Well, you should probably hop into my community Discord, as we have thousands of players looking to party up, and of course, you can ask me any questions directly that you might have on Wraith, or really anything in Apex. Also, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. I greatly appreciate your support. Wraith's ultimate of the Dimensional Rift is a 152-meter two-way portal that Wraith can create to transport herself, her team, and anyone else that does walk into it. The portal has an active timer of 45 seconds and has a fairly lengthy 3-minute and 30-second recast, which does mean ultimate accelerants are pretty necessary for Wraith. In general, when you are running with Wraith's portal, the speed boost that you get starts out around 20% and then increases all the way up to 60% the closer you get to 0% energy remaining. You will notice the speed boost greatly increase between 50% and 0% remaining as well. When using that ultimate portal, you can use Wraith's tactile ability and it is going to activate instantly, bypassing that 1.25 second activation timer. This is going to give you invulnerability while also running with the portal. There are two ways you can look at this. Since you do move faster and faster the longer you run with the portal, it is wise to use Wraith's tactical earlier on when you aren't moving as fast, so you get that invulnerability earlier and then you get that speed boost at the end. In the opposite sense of this, you can of course use that tactical towards the end of the portal, and if you want to really time it perfectly, activating that tactical ability at 40% energy remaining is going to let you both exit her tactical phase and finish that portal placement at the exact same time. In general though, if you are wondering when to pop the tactical during the portal, it's best to do it when you do need to cross open areas, and don't worry about timing it at the start or at the end. A basic way to use the portal is to transport your knocked teammates. The biggest tip I can give for this is to be sure you're not jumping while you do start activating that initial portal. If you are off the ground, your knocked teammates are not going to be able to crawl into the portal, and it is going to be a big issue. Likewise with this, you don't always need to run that maximum distance to get the most out of Wraith's portal. Short portals of drops to low ground so you can get back up quickly and safely are definitely fine to do, so do not become over obsessive with maximizing your portal distance. Similarly to this, using the portal to take positioning from high ground by dropping down can be a great way to make plays but still have a safe spot to retreat to. This lets you get angles on enemies, and for the most part, enemies can't reach you unless they do portal chase, which is absolutely never a good idea. Don't do that. It's worth taking a second to say that really any legend is going to benefit from Wraith's abilities, but if you do want to take her portal one step farther, you can pair up a Caustic or a Watson, and either of these legends can fairly well fortify the end of Wraith's portal, either with a fence right through the portal or some gas traps around it so they do get hit by the gas right as they exit. The second option is to have a grenade, as you always should, but this way you can't throw it at the end of the portal so you do hit that chasing enemy. If you do enter an area and you quickly see an enemy is near you and you need to rapidly get out, but you still want some playmaking options, or maybe your teammate is knocked right next to you, quickly ripping an ultimate portal and then phasing out of a bad situation is absolutely a viable strategy, much like I am doing here on the roof next to the core. This lets you reset, and then you can have multiple ways to reapproach that situation. You can either walk back up, or you can simply just take the portal, depending on what that enemy is doing. Another way you can use that ultimate to buy a little bit of time and hesitation from your enemies is to drop your portal right between two doorways. This is going to make it much more difficult for enemies to walk into your area, and it's going to slow them down quite a bit, and oftentimes players don't know how to deal with this. If you are trying to go pretty far with your portal and you're not sure if you can make it to that spot, the best way to be sure your portal is going to reach its end is by pinging your destination. This is going to give you a direct answer as to whether or not that spot you want to rotate to is going to be in your range. The later and later you get in a game, the more useful the portal can become. Generally, this is because there's going to be a lot of teams around, you have far less rotation and playmaking options, and the portal is going to help alleviate this. Something to know is that the end of the portal can start or end outside of the ring where you would normally take damage. This can help you rotate out of the zone quickly, transport a knocked teammate out of that ring damage, or just make a play on someone who may be edge camping around the ring. If both ends of that portal are caught outside the ring, it's only going to stay active for 4 ticks, and then it is going to despawn though. So be aware if that ring is closing and it is about to consume both of the portal ends. Sticking with the theme of the ring damage and portaling, it does not happen often, but if you are in an end game heal off, meaning you and an enemy are stacked up between high and low ground, and you are just trying to pop some heals to see who is going to win at the very end, using the portal to extend your life at the end game is a massive and almost unbeatable way if you do come to a heal off. In order to properly do this, I am using the heat shield right here on screen as a representation of that ring that would be shrinking down to nothing. You want to start your portal at the dead center of where that ring ends and then run around in a small circle using up that portal energy. Once you get down to say 15 or so % of your energy remaining, use your tactical Q and run outwards to the side, avoiding the ring damage due to the tactical. After this, you just take the portal back and you're going to be going through all 152 meters of that portal, even though it is all contained in one spot, and you're going to greatly out heal and outlast your enemies who may be above or below you. Another high level technique many players always want to do is portal snatching or body snatching an enemy. I'll say that this technique, while it is hilarious, really is not the greatest strategy in terms of actual effectiveness, but if you want to do this to style on enemies, the way to properly do it is to activate Wraith's portal from height. This prevents any enemies from simply just taking the portal back after they get snatched. After you do this, you want to run up to enemies, and once you get close to them, you tactical Q straight into an enemy player, and then you finish and rip that portal right as you are more or less standing inside of them. This makes them get snatched, and then your teammates who are waiting at the start of the portal can kill them as they do drop into you. Continuing with the atypical ways to utilize the portal, if an enemy team is around you or above you, you can activate the portal and then deactivate it if you do not use more than 5% of the energy or so. This lets you save the portal, bait enemies to drop into what they think is a 2-on-3 since you would be running away with the portal, and it's a great way for you to counterplay them if you are in a tough spot. The portal canceling is also just great to know that you can change your mind at the last second if you don't want to use it. When using the portal, you do not need to run the energy all the way down right away. You pretty much just stall right in the middle of the portal. You don't need to run it out and you don't need to finish it. Sometimes stalling mid-port is going to confuse your enemy as to where you are going, and it's also a nice way to give yourself another second to think about your play, or maybe have a third party come in and kill those people that are waiting for you to finish the portal. And another tip is that as you finish the portal, you can simply pretty much just sit right inside of that recently opened portal. This gives you a nice little hiding spot that in some situations, players rarely think to check. We have talked about a lot of ways to use the portal to make plays, but sometimes using the portal just to loot areas if you are really desperate can be done. Similarly to this, if a care package is in the complete open and you want that care package item, you can drop a portal right next to the care package and go get that item. Don't forget that Wraith is a skirmisher legend, and thus she can't see what is in those care packages before you do portal to that gold helmet. If you are trying to make a play, or you're just trying to wait it out to the last moment so enemies cannot chase you, or you want to make that last ditch effort with your portal, a great way to monitor when your portal is going to go away is knowing that it disappears at 21% of an ultimate recharge. So keep your eye on the bottom of your screen, and in line with this, always be communicative to your team that the portal is about to close so they have that intel and playmaking possibility. Just remember that Wraith really shines in a properly and well-coordinated team, but if you are wondering where her spot is in the meta of Apex, Wraith is a very good legend, and she's in the upper part of the legends ranking for me, somewhere around a top 5 to top 7 legend, and she's definitely worthy of a spot in any squad at any skill level. If you want even more ways to improve in Apex, you gotta check out this video right here. Hit that like button if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Happy gaming.